Folks, you are in for a real treat. I recently performed in the Blue Whale Comedy Festival, and through some clever networking, my approachable demeanor, and some good old-fashioned blackmail, I convinced two of the headliners to do my podcast. Today's guests are Shornima and Tom Thakkar. Casey has written for SNL, opened for Dave Attell, and now is a nationally touring headliner. Tom has been on Comedy Central, he's been on The Tonight Show, and he also tours all over the country. They both give great insight on the comedic journey, and their stories are, of course, hilarious. Obviously, they're pros at this. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is a real gem, so without further ado. I'm Cody Troutman, and this is my podcast. The Cody Trout Pod.
There's just weird dudes out there.
Yeah. I mean, every guy I date, I try to put my feet in their mouth just to see if they would, because that would, I think, make things so much easier.
If that's what they were into?
Yeah, if that's what they're into, then I'm just like, yeah, suck all day long.
I wish I was into that.
Shit, you know? Yeah, exactly. Because
that would be so sick if that was your thing.
It almost happened to me. I was on a Zoom call.
It happened to me.
I swear, I've never thought about feet in a sexual way ever, but I was on a Zoom call and I was talking to one of my female coworkers, and she was really laid back, and for some reason
you're gonna get fired. You shouldn't say that.
I got
this isn't recorded, right? Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
We haven't started, have we?
Yeah, I mean, I turned it on just so...
Oh, see, careful, dude. This guy's trying to fuck you, dude.
It's fine. And she was laying back, typing, and then for some reason, just her big toe came into the screen, and I was like, well, that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
You know? And there was something weird about it. I was
that's what I feel like most sexuality shit is you're like, oh, taboo. I'm not supposed to see that.
Yeah.
So then it is like...
And I was like, you're in your... And then for some reason, and I might be reading too much into this, afterwards she got up on she took her laptop off her desk, and she went and laid on her bed, and when people put their feet up, she did that. I was like, what's going on right now?
Yeah. What the hell?
This is weird.
It sounds like she was trying to make you into feet.
And she almost.
It sounds like she thought no one's gonna fuck my feet.
She was like, oh, I'm just a normal person living my life. And now I'm being sexualized.
Me being oh, I should hide my feet, and you guys being like, oh, that's weird. But then being like, I saw this woman's feet one time on a casual call, and I got turned on.
It was a work call.
You are the problem.
He's getting riled up thinking about it. Look at it.
It was I'm hard right now. It was a work call, and it was weirdly close. It was at the edge of the laptop. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But it was. I'm just saying. I was like,
oh, it does matter. It matters a lot.
When that happened, I was just like, is this? You know, I was just like, this is odd.
Sure.
This is unprofessional.
You're sitting there, you're like, which
makes it hot.
Yeah, hey lady, you're being unprofessional. I'm jerking off right now.
Now I'm gonna out unprofessional you and start masturbating on this call. Let's see where this goes. Dude, that would be an office hookup in 2023 though. Is phone sex or Zoom sex.
Yeah. Oh, do you guys remember that guy who was the
New York Times guy? Yeah. What the Tubin? Jeffrey Tubin.
I know.
They brought him out and made him apologize, and they made him rehash.
Dude, this is the problem with being liberal, dude.
Yeah.
The problem, guys like that have to come out and apologize. If he was Republican, he'd be like, yeah, I'm jerking off right now.
Yeah.
Who cares? Fuck you.
It's because I love America.
Y'all should have left the room.
I was jerking off to the anthem. Actually,
I just heard the financial numbers and started jerking off.
He's like, Tommy Lauren was owning the libs. I couldn't help myself. You know?
That is true. Liberals make people apologize. Remember when Kendrick Lamar came out with he had that line where he's like afro and stretch marks, whatever.
I love that line.
I know, but
so
then
good.
people
He apologized?
People were mad at him because they were like,
what?
Well, some women feel too self-conscious about their hair to have an afro, and he came out and he was like, I'm not gonna fucking apologize for that.
Good for him.
Yeah, I know, but
what
I was
a
like,
stupid fucking thing.
How crazy are we gonna be?
Yeah, he wants to see something real.
Yeah,
and that's the whole point.
I thought you were gonna say it's like some women can't have stretch marks because they can't have kids. So it's and I was like, oh yeah, of course that would be something. You gotta apologize for that.
But you can just get stretch marks by getting fat.
Oh, I hadn't considered that.
You can just kind of get fat.
Yeah.
Or
That's a good point.
But maybe they just don't have enough food to get fat.
Yeah,
So
it was more
Could be.
about a food scarcity issue.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was,
that's what people were mad about.
There is always a problem.
Yeah, there's always a problem.
You can. It is kind of fun to play that game of like,
Right?
how can I get offended by the like?
Dude, sometimes it's gymnastics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's
But
kind
also
of fun.
the game of when someone says something is problematic and like you trying to do the math of like the stretch mark being
Yeah, what do I do?
What is the thing that's problematic? Because you're like, I
Right.
totally agree.
It's like a
problematic.
Where's Waldo?
Yeah. Where
You come
is
up
this
with
racism?
10 new problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That would
we
be
were
kind of a fun show. Maybe it's like if you're like
What's problematic?
figure out make this problematic.
It's like bunny hopping through a forest.
Oh
it's like,
yeah,
all right, this
It must
fucking
be
white-
nice to be able to
Right.
hop. I have a
Must
friend
Must be
who
nice
has no
to
legs.
be a white bunny. Right?
Yeah, this white bunny
Yeah.
taking
If a black
cotton.
bunny was in that force,
Yeah.
a hunter would have shot it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, yeah.
Cottontail. That's a little problem.
Whoa, whoa.
Okay.
Oh,
That's a
funny.
The good
crazy sounding slur.
Yeah. Cottontail.
A couple of cottontails just
Jesus
walked in.
Christ.
Yeah. There's a couple buzzwords where you just like, oh, there's
Yeah.
too many negative associations
Sure.
with this
Yeah.
word.
Just even the word cotton field. I was driving through
Yeah, you
Mississippi
can't say that.
and I saw a cotton field and I was like, that's racist.
Don't say it again.
Like,
Can you bleep
I was thinking
that?
about something like, okay, there are farms and there are plantations. What's the? I don't know the. I don't know when one becomes the other.
well, it's
Yeah.
when slaves work
Is
one.
that the difference?
That's definitely the
Because
difference.
one is racist and one is not. And I was
Right,
just like,
because a farm, you work a farm.
oh,
A plantation,
Sure.
you employ slaves to work it.
Is that true?
Right.
Are you just saying you're coming up with shit?
Oh shit! Actually, I don't know if it's
You
true. I
employ
always thought it was a good house.
You look
made
at
a
their
plantation.
resume.
Oh, that's really funny.
Wow, this is already off to a problematic start.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you're saying earlier. This
Yeah.
is so funny.
On this
There's
episode
no
of the Cody
good
Tale
thing.
Pod,
Nothing we could do.
we've got Hamza returning, one of our all-time favorite
Thank
guests.
you. Thank
Amazing.
you. Yeah,
One
yeah.
of my favorite guests. The listeners hated it. I loved it. So we're bringing him back. And we've got two new people, Casey Shornima, Tom Thakkar.
Hey.
Give it up to the studio audience.
Give it up.
Yeah.
Give it up for once in your fucking life,
Yeah.
you pig. You slop-eating pig.
The headliners at this week's Blue Whale Comedy Festival. I almost forgot the name of it.
Yeah.
But no, thank you guys for coming on. I really
Sure.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for getting us canceled in the first 5 minutes.
Yes.
Hey, we
Now
didn't
we can
do
just have
shit.
fun.
Yeah, can you just bleep it out for 5
Yeah,
minutes?
maybe start now.
Yeah.
I did. So I had like some more serious questions prepared. Like I'm better at coming up with serious questions, but I love the idea of like when it's a group setting, like comedic stories. One story because he was on the Sarah Squirm show, so he didn't get to see your show. Loaded.
Nice. Oh,
I saw part of it.
yeah.
I came and I came for like probably like 10 minutes and then I had to go.
Sure. Yeah. So
I wanted him
Yeah.
to hear from your point of view
What happened.
that crowd interaction was like.
yeah. So
That was crazy.
last night was a rare. Like I'm not a big crowd work guy, but I have been like throwing some in.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
As soon as I walked into Lowdown, it's one of those times where you see everybody like looking so intently
Yeah.
at someone. I was like, oh, whoever's up is just like they have the room,
Yeah.
and you're just like up there with a beer, just like having a good time.
Oh, that's what I do. I have a good time.
Is
Yeah.
you didn't set the beer down.
I like
the
to hold it.
entire-
I
it
like to
was-
wave it at people. Yeah. I realized like 2 months ago, I was like, I make way more sense with a beer in my hand. Like, the shit I have to say makes like nobody takes me seriously anymore.
Yeah.
It's like everything gets a little chiller if I'm just like, because I was
that's
thinking
funny,
about
yeah.
like when I talk to my friends, I drink a lot. So I was like, I usually do have a beer in my hand. And my buddy made a point. My buddy, Mike Leibovitz, very funny New York comic.
Yeah.
He runs Comedians You Should Know at the Gutter.
Oh, nice.
Very,
Yeah.
very fun Brooklyn show. He was making fun of me. We were at another festival, Bridgetown, and he was like, "Man, every time I see you, you have a beer in your hand." And then he goes, "Even in your headshot, you have a beer in your hand." And I was like, "Oh fuck, I do." My poster headshot is me being like, "Ah," and I was like, "Yeah, I make more sense if I'm like waving a beer around."
Yeah.
And so I don't do it on purpose. It's like I just like it's like a comfort zone.
Something I've sip
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's but
I
it's
don't know
like
what
I
to
didn't
do
do
with
it
my
on purpose.
hand
I
on
have a
stage.
problem.
it's just how I live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is an element of like I realized like 2 months ago, I was like, oh, I feel very like natural when I'm just like talking, because that's how I talk to my friends. And
Yeah.
I think you're at your best in stand up when you were talking to the crowd, like they're
Yeah.
they're just your friends that you're talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also
So,
helps
yeah.
you feel like they like you.
Yeah, exactly.
'cause
You're
your
just
friends
shooting
like
the
you.
shit with
Yeah.
them. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, your
exactly.
friends like okay.
Oh
cool.
yeah. Friends.
Yeah, I have good friends. But I heard Bill Burr say that once, where he's like, the best I've ever been is when I act like I'm just meeting my friend at a bar and we're talking shit or whatever. And like, if I do that on stage, I feel good. I'm like, that is what. And something happened last night when I was doing that, where there was a wild crowd interaction moment where there was some really drunk people there, but like they were not. I didn't notice them until the very end.
Yeah,
that's the wildest one I've seen in person. By the way, I don't know.
Yeah, me too. You're talking about the moment that I'm about to.
Yeah. I didn't mean to. Yeah,
no,
you're talking about the moment that you keep stepping on. You want to shut the fuck up. I'm trying to get to it.
Yeah, I haven't told people yet.
That was poor hosting.
So I have never asked anybody this question before, but I was like trying to set up a bit. And I was like, it was a dumb question to ask, but I asked this guy, I was like, what do you know about your best friend? Like, because I was trying to make a point about how men don't talk to each other ever, like about real stuff. Like we talk about like sports and beer or whatever, which is true. But I was like, we don't know real stuff about each other. And I asked a guy that once about his friend in Dallas, and it was funny. So I was like, oh, I'll try that. But then I asked this woman who was with him, I was like, what is like a deep secret one of your girlfriends has told you? And she hesitated for a second, and then she goes, my friend told me that she fucked her brother. Yeah, and it was real.
Wait, what?
Exactly. Yeah. See, now we're living it again.
And did she say the text just read, bitch,
she said,
I fucked my brother?
She said, hey, bitch, I fucked my brother.
What the fuck?
Why would you text your friend,
Exactly.
hey, bitch?
Hey, bitch, yo, bitch, just fucked my brother, YOLO.
Yeah, and not step.
She deleted it because I was like, I want to see that text if you have it, and she's like, I deleted it. So she may have been. It didn't sound like she was lying. I also, I really wish I had it filmed because I did ask a question that I was like, this is dicey, but then it did lead to a funny answer. I thought I was like, were the people in the story attractive? she was like, well, I don't know the brother, and I was like, well, is your friend attractive? And she goes, no.
I was gonna say that makes more sense. If they were unattractive, that makes more sense.
Like
they were really nice, but it was funny when you're like, "Are your friends attractive?" And I was like, "Tom, look at them." Tom, Jesus.
That was what I mean. It was dicey. It was a fucked up thing to ask.
So, was it like they have something? They're like on an island,
buddy. There's a lot of questions that could have been asked. It was too nuts in there to really get a lot of details, and I was trying, but I was like, the thing that's tough about a moment like that is like, how the fuck do you follow?
Yeah,
this woman fucked her brother, and now you're just like, so pizza's crazy, huh? Like it's nuts. It's hard to like go back into your act. So it's like that's part of the reason I don't love doing crowd work all the time. Is like sometimes the crowd work is too crazy, and the crowd went nuts. Like it was nuts in there for a minute.
It was pandemonium.
Yeah. It took me a minute to like get control back because I was like, people were like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like
Somebody else stands up, I fucked my brother too.
it becomes
somebody did.
Guy.
Well, that guy that was annoying though. That
Wait,
kind of annoyed me.
But he did or didn't?
No, he was like Pornhub tried to pay me to fuck my brother,
which is
I was like,
so
there's
misleading.
something. I was like, there's something bullshit in this story.
That was an Indian man in his DMs. Fuck your brother.
You fuck your brother. That was a bad Indian accent. I can do an Indian accent. I'm half Indian.
Dude, I
no, it's part of my act.
It's sad, but I've lost my Pakistani accent over the year.
Yeah.
Like I used to do it at home with my dad all the time. I would impersonate it.
Oh, you had a dad?
And
Must
I don't
be
do
nice.
it as much
Let
bragging about your Indian dad. No, now I'm pissed. No, the joke is that I never met my Indian father, and so I can't.
Is he in India?
He's dead. But he was a bad guy, but he was a deadbeat dad too. Okay, and so my joke is like, I can't do an Indian. I was like, you guys are probably like, why does he sound like this or whatever? It's a lead in to say for me to do like what I think my father would sound like, but it's just me saying fucked up stuff like as my dad. It's funny stuff. Funny
so you gotta be there.
This woman was like, my best friend fucked her brother and is still friends with this woman.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about.
She left like ambiguous.
It was very weird because she was like, "Oh, these people are nuts," and I was like, "Well, are they your friends or not?" I don't know.
And but you asked, "You're like bio or step?" And she's like, "I don't know."
Oh, I thought she said bio.
No, it was bio.
Yeah, it's like her actual
No, she said it was her brother.
Yeah.
Because I did ask that because I was like, is it porny or is it not? And then I was like, even Pornhub is like, no, it's got to be step. Like, it's like they don't even allow
they won't
that.
say step before the bro part.
Yeah.
And it's like,
It's a little weird. it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
it was
when you
fucking
guys
wild.
stop watching the step porn that you've been watching.
Yeah. Listen,
That's when it takes you
Look.
out of it. You're like,
It
oh
is
god.
tough. It is tough because it is like they lead now. It's like on if you go to Pornhub, like their
the first
homepage, it's all step.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to watch it. I don't prefer it. It's just the people are hot.
Right.
It is kind of weird.
It is the
no,
only choice
there is
now.
an element if you click on one and they're not at all related. It's like, what are we even doing here?
The stakes are too low.
There's no risk of your parents walking in on you.
Yeah, Pornhub makes me wish my parents got divorced. That's how good it is. Yeah.
Get a step kid in here.
I want to. So that leads me to like a different crowd work question I had. So I don't do hardly any crowd work either.
Good for
I was
you.
Gonna, I was gonna ask you as well because I noticed like you did a little bit. So this is like a double question. Feel free to bite on whichever part is most close to your heart. In the social media landscape right now, crowd work clips very prevalent. Everybody seems to be pushing that over like actual jokes. Do you feel pressure to partake in that? And then the second question is, like when you're on stage managing this crowd interaction, how do you decide when to probe more and when to pull back and do your act? Like what's the...
I don't feel pressure to do it. I don't think I would really push for crowd work clips.
Yeah.
It just seems really saturated and like
Yeah, that's a
overdone.
good point.
Yeah. But then it is a good way to not burn material, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
Saturated is a great way to put it, though.
yeah. It's like
Yeah.
all of it is just fucking stupid. But I mean, obviously not above it. Anything that gets me, anything,
Yeah, I don't
it's
care
funny, it's
anymore.
funny.
anything
That's
I can
the truth.
sell
It's like-
is fine, whatever. But I like to stop when I'm like, oh, you think you have the stage. Like you think you're holding a conversation, but
well
you're not
put.
fucking like, and then I'm like, we're not going to talk anymore because this is
You don't want it to get out of hand. Like, okay, so with this last night,
Yeah, this person they were great because they did not they
There was
weren't doing
everybody
that.
else that
There was
started going
other
crazy.
people who were annoying, and
Yeah.
there was two tables that were great. Like that older guy
Yes.
and his wife,
Yeah.
he was fucking
He was
great.
great,
And I
yeah.
like talking to people like that where they're like they're not. I don't like talking to people who are clearly visibly uncomfortable. I tried to talk to this guy who clearly did not want to
Right.
talk to me, which is kind of funny sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's also like I don't want to fuck up somebody's night, or like I try not to make the joke that they're an idiot or anything.
right.
Like, but the two friends that I was talking to at that table were not shy, but they were a little bit. But they clearly liked the attention, and like the when to probe and when not to probe is kind of random. It's kind of like, oh, if I see an end to a bit that I have, I'm like, I'll exit here. But I will say and like I didn't film that set. Like I will do crowd work clips now because I'm just like everybody's fucking doing it, and you
Yeah.
have to have a career or whatever.
Yeah. You gotta sell
But I do think
tickets.
it's bad for comedy. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that now people will come to shows and like you'll watch sets that people have at like the Cellar where they're just trying to get a crowd work clip, and you're like, okay, you just asked 30 people what they did for a living. Who
There's
gives
crowd
a
work
shit?
specials now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a crowd work special to me is like,
Yeah.
okay, you could technically do this every week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
No, good for them. Like
I know. It's,
I think like Stav does that, and I'm like, do that, man.
Yeah.
Like you have a crowd, you can like fucking make content. He's
Yeah.
like guys like him. I'm like, yeah, do whatever is working for you. He's selling tickets, like he's doing well.
Yeah.
But then I watch people who are not that good at it do it.
And then you're like,
And
this
it's
is actually
annoying.
a survey you're taking.
Yeah, you're a census worker.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
are you guys married? Are you guys married?
How many
Are you
children
guys
do you
married?
have?
Yeah.
What-
And you're like, okay, 30% of this room is married.
How do you two meet?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just don't. The
They're
other
just
thing is, as
taking
a
notes.
comedy
Yeah.
fan, I just don't care. Yeah,
Yeah.
They're
I-
tallying
yeah.
on the stage.
It rarely is impressive. Like as a comic, it's rarely impressive.
Yeah.
And when it's impressive, it's fucking magic. You're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is
it's
so
like improv.
good. Yeah.
when it's really good, you're
Yeah.
like, holy shit.
And
But
when it's
most
bad,
of the time, it's
yeah.
not very
Yeah,
good.
yeah. You gotta be like improv. You have to be a pro. If you ever go to like a new improv show, you're like, this is a waste
Yeah.
of my time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like a literal waste of my time.
Like
Sure.
good improv is really impressive, but bad
Yeah.
improv is
It's
tough.
really
yeah,
tough.
Yeah,
It's
like the
really
ceiling
tough.
is high and the floor
It's
is
so
so
low.
fucking
It's in the
low.
basement.
Yeah.
But it is like I always hated when comics, like stand-up comics, would bitch. They'd be like, improv is the worst or whatever. And it's like, now that's most of stand-up.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
when improv is great, it's really like
unreal.
all of the celebrities in comedy that we love
Whose line
were
is it anyway?
improvisers.
Yeah, yeah.
Like all of the guys who are getting good acting work. Like Rory Scovel is probably my favorite living comic, and he he basically is doing improv on stage. Like it's impressive, but I do think the problem with the crowd work thing now is like there are people who come. It's not impressive to comedians. I don't think.
No.
Some comedians are impressed by it.
Yeah.
It's very impressive to the crowd.
Yeah.
Or they feel like it's special. It makes the night special.
Yeah.
I started doing it when I headlined because I was like, I want people to go home and feel like they experienced something that could only happen at a live show.
Yeah.
But that is part of why I don't post a lot of those clips, because I'm like, that was for that. That was for that moment.
Yeah.
But that's why I also have probably the least amount of followers in this room.
I was going to ask you about that because when no, not the
what the fuck?
Not the followers thing.
I was going to ask you, what is your
What
problem?
is your problem?
What is the matter?
Why don't you get some more followers, you fucking loser?
How does it feel? No, I was gonna ask you about the not recording. So in that being in that audience, when you said I'm not recording, like, because in my head I was like, oh dude, like he's gonna make this a clip. It's gonna be, and when you said, I was like, oh no. In that moment, or like you said, you sound like you have a good perspective on it, because I would have been like, "Fuck, I missed something." But it sounds
that
like
happens to me every show. Like if I don't record, it's like there's going to be a moment that I'm like, "Fuck, I should have recorded," but it doesn't matter. Like, I think of it as this ephemeral thing that's like, I kind of like that feeling of it happened. I'm never gonna watch it again. Nobody's gonna see it. It just happened in this room.
Yeah.
There's like a mythology to it almost, when like. That's like a guy like Sam Talent or something, like where people would see him on the road and be like, "Oh my god, this show, you got to see it," and like you can't. Like it's kind of fun.
That's the
like,
beautiful thing about live entertainment is like you have to be there.
There should be a moment of like you gotta go, like you gotta be there to see it. Otherwise, it's like, why wouldn't you just sit at home? But I mean, it is creating bigger audiences. I don't know.
An interesting parallel to being like you have to be there. So like my comedic hero is Steve Martin, and in this book, Born Standing Up,
I've read
Great
Born
book.
Standing Up,
So
multiple times.
He talks about that it was like a naive move by him ended up being genius, because he released an audio only album of a very visual act.
Yeah,
and people would be like, it would just be like these clangs and noises, and like the audience is dying laughing, and people were like, I have to go see it.
Right.
Yeah, that's smart.
She said it ended up working out, even though it was probably like dumb in theory. It ended up being this amazing thing that everybody's like, oh, this is a must-see thing, because it can't be captured.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting...
he is also one of my favorite quotes in comedy, which when people asked him why he quit stand-up, he said Friday Late Show. I love that.
I've never heard that.
I love that. Yeah. Because Friday Late Show is typically the worst show of a weekend, because it's a day people did go to work and then they come and they're drunk as hell. Yeah. Whereas Saturday, people kind of know how to plan their nights. But you do. I think it's gone away a little bit, because generally people know how to act in a comedy room. Like there's way more like audience savviness because of podcasts and shit. Yeah. But there is an element of, especially the rooms I do, because I don't have a lot of followers, is if you do like a fucking loony bin, the Friday Late Show is still going to be like, oh, this is rowdy.
Are you like, this is America? Like whenever you pull up to something like that, are you like, yeah, this rules. This is.
Oh no!
Or you just like, or
no,
you just
I'm
like,
this is. You're like, this is America, and
I thought you meant that in a bad way.
Yeah. I gotta get out of here, dude. Looney Bin. Okay, the Steve Martin quote. Mine would be like, if I stopped comedy, it would be because of the Looney Bin. I feel like that's why.
Yeah.
How many loony bins
there's one
there?
less loony bin. The Oklahoma one closed.
And the Wichita one.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
I
So
like
it's
the
Little
Wichita
Rock
one
and-
too.
I think there's only 2 left.
Oh, okay.
Tulsa opened back up. So there's Tulsa. There's Little Rock. Is that it?
I thought that was
it might be
all.
it. Yeah, I think you're right. Actually,
Okay, so then you can talk shit about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Tulsa one was really fun. I'm doing the Little Rock one in September.
Come out.
So it's really fun.
Yeah. It's a really good time. No, I mean the crowd's gonna have a good time.
Sure.
You just as a comic are
That's why
I gotta get
like that was another room where I was like, oh, I like having a beer on stage, because I have to go away.
Yeah.
I have to go away mentally a little bit.
You're like, I check out during my act.
I start thinking about sports. And,
You're like, come to a live show. I'm not present. But
I won't be there,
Yeah.
but
but it's a Great show.
No, it is like it. You know,
You just play a recording and you're just like,
I should do
mouthing
that
it
someday.
online.
Just like, man, I can't do it today.
You're like,
Here's
last
what-
time I
DJ
was at one
set.
of my shows, it was great. So you guys should come check it out. Oh, that's really funny.
No, that Steve Martin book is great though.
Yeah,
I
that's a
highly
great
rec.
book.
That's my favorite nonfiction book I've ever read. That was like, there's a passage in there where he talks about. Though I love the way it was written because most autobiographies, they're a little self-indulgent or biased in a way. But he wrote it about a time in his life that was so long previous to when it was written. He has
Yeah.
this like perspective
Yeah.
on his whole journey, and he writes about it in kind of like a self-deprecating way. And I love that, like, he wrote about, like, the grind and obscurity so much. And then,
Right,
like,
right.
the passage where things start, like, popping off and he's finally making it. Like, the way he phrases how that felt. Like, that was a really, like, the way he describes that it was,
Yeah,
like,
it's exactly
shocking.
how it feels.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all theater acts, and
I think it's so interesting that you could write like Steve Martin's autobiography is great because you're like, I didn't know he came up like this.
yeah.
But now we are so often on podcasts that if I ever wrote a book, everyone would be like, I've heard this.
Yeah,
story.
we know.
Yeah, we know. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, but there is something interesting about getting the like perspective from that moment in time. You know,
Right,
like even
right.
like this story, like it might change a month from now.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
like a month from now, you'd be like, dude, this girl fucked 10 of her brothers,
Yeah.
or whatever. You know?
Oh no, I don't lie like that. I don't have the Indian tongue that can say anything.
You don't do the exchange rate of brothers. You know?
Another funny moment of that was when you asked the guy, like, your best friend, what
Oh
does he do?
yeah,
And he was
what
like,
does he do? And he goes, actually, my best friend is a woman. I was like, you fucking
Yeah.
asshole. You know exactly what I meant. You fucking piece of
Wait,
shit.
were they together or were
They
they
were
best
not.
friends?
No,
This was the weird part, yeah.
This is weird, and this is one of those things where I was like, I'm not even interested in
Yeah.
it. But I was like, you have to once it comes up. But they were like, their partners were friends, and so they were watching a movie at the same time these two were at a comedy club. Like it was weird.
They're
It
swinging?
felt
So
like
it's
a
like a wife
swingersy
swap
thing. Yeah,
situation.
Are they
exactly.
swinging or no?
No.
I could
No.
tell that when he was like, my best friend's a woman, I was like, I fucking knew you would be like that because I
know, dude.
yeah, because
The denim shirt thing. He had cut off sleeves. Yeah.
But then
It's so funny
also-
that we both remember them
Yeah.
so vividly.
I know.
People are
'Cause I
like,
kept
nobody's
looking
thinking
over
about
at
you
them.
that much. I'm going to remember that guy forever.
He had like a sewn-on patch on his denim. Anyway,
It's like, of course you would say my.
It's-
Actually, I'm about to blow your mind.
Yeah.
The doctor was a woman. Yeah, I get it, man. You
at
have
one
a
point-
female friends. I'm talking about your best male friend. That's the whole point of this fucking thing.
I was
Help
like,
me
I'm a
out.
feminist, and he was like the only one who clapped. And I was like, you don't look.
Yeah.
Your
He
your
stood up.
best female friend's
Yeah.
not here right now. Okay, you
He
don't
was-
impress
he,
me.
He rode in on a white horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that type of guy
I know.
is so tough.
It's the worst. I would much rather someone be a straight up misogynist.
You kind of want you
Yeah.
kind of want people to just be what they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And
Instead
guys
of
like that break
switching.
the matrix, and
I
you're like,
know.
I don't want to see the lady in red
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
this show. I don't need to see you fucking standing up and clapping for
Right.
like you should have period sex. Like, I like when my wife's on her period. Actually,
Yeah.
I think it's really beautiful.
Just a weird
I was gonna say,
insult.
just always. I feel like those people always have to bring it up too.
Yeah, of
It's like
course. 'cause
everything
that's their
That's their
personality.
value.
Yeah.
That is their value to
Yeah.
society
Yeah,
in their
yeah.
mind. They're like, actually,
As a
my
vegan.
best friend's a woman.
Also, it's like so condescending when someone like that is like, I support you. And you're like, you are the least powerful person in this
Yeah.
room.
You think
You
it's
are
like
the
a
last person. You just,
that
you
hurt.
don't want a fucking loser to support you.
Are these
sorry.
my fans?
You're like, hey man,
Yeah.
put on a suit or something. You look like a dumbass.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
dress
Your
like this if you're going to
sleeves are
support.
cut off. Don't support me, okay?
It would be better if you were against me.
Yeah.
Because then I can
That would make
antagonize
people
you.
like me more.
You are hurting the cause.
Yeah.
It's like a-
Seriously.
You are Hunter Bidening my cause.
He is hurting the cause because no one wants
Yeah.
to relate to him.
No.
So they're like, well, if he's a feminist, not fucking me, you know?
Sure. I also have
I'm a
a
man.
tough time with guys like that, when they said they were in Dungeons and Dragons and shit, it's really hard to not just make fun of them. But I don't like being mean to people. And I had gotten the note from people. My friend Rachel opened for me in Milwaukee, and I did some crowd work, and she was like, "Man, you are really mean to people." And I was like, "I don't even notice that." To me, like, that's love. It's like being like
roasty.
kind of mean. Yeah. And so I was like, I didn't even notice that I was being mean. And so I tried to pull back a little bit, but when they said that, I had to be like, "Yeah, I've played Dungeons and Dragons." It's not absurd that you're adults who fucking do that.
It was so funny because you said some people like to make fun of things like that, but not me.
Not me. I am a good guy. I am your friend.
So
That
Other
is
people
what
might
I,
say.
I will say. I think that me saying that is what led to her opening up about the brother fucking thing.
Like,
I
okay.
seem like a guy who's not going to judge anything anymore.
I can't believe how much
Sinister.
time we've spent
I'm
just
really sorry.
roasting these people. Just the sweetest fans.
They were so
nice. So
No,
supportive.
Cody got their number. He's gonna send this to them.
Trevor, come on out.
His name would be
That
Trevor.
guy was a popular guy that night because at the Sarah Squirm show, he was the center of the.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Fuck, I
He
missed it.
stood up, and me and Caleb, because we were there, we were like, "It's that fucking guy!"
Yeah.
And we were like
Wow.
trying to tell our friends, like, "No, his friend fucked her brother."
Oh my god, that
Jesus.
pisses me off that I was the fucking appetizer for him to go to Sarah Squirm show and fucking main course, man.
No, she just like showed her pussy on a slideshow, and he was like, "Yeah."
Wait, what happened?
No.
I
Not
didn't
an
see the
actual
show.
pussy.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
But it was
gotcha,
like
gotcha.
a-
I
But
love
it-
Sarah.
but
I did not
yeah.
see
It
it.
was recreated well.
For sure.
I will say, like, it's such an experience to watch. Like, you're the whole time, you're like, this is worth my time.
Yeah.
Even though I am deeply uncomfortable. Like, I'm so uncomfortable.
There was a point where they were like, I don't want to like put out her act, but
Yeah.
there was just something like grotesque
Right.
happening.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, I
to be
literally couldn't
fair-
look at it.
I usually get like, ugh, and then I
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
looking around at other people like, oh, this is hilarious.
Well,
Yeah,
to be
it's so
fair,
crazy.
it's kind of like the Steve Martin thing where it's like you can't ruin her
Yeah.
act. Like
Yeah,
you
you
have
really
to
can't,
see it.
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can't explain
Yeah, yeah,
Sarah. Like
No.
yeah, she's great.
And like when when you're watching her, you're kind of like just notes on performance. You're taking notes mentally, like, okay, you don't have to care about how it's taken by the audience.
Yeah.
You just care about what you think is funny, and then you do it, and people will just like you for it.
God,
you know?
I wish I could do that.
I know. God, I wish I could first find out what I like about myself. And then make it marketable
Sure.
so that it can sell.
You know
Sure.
what's hilarious is after the show, we were back there, and I heard her say one thing that I just thought was so funny. She's like, sometimes I wish I could just tell a joke.
This is the thing we all want to do what the other people are
You
doing.
said you wish you could do that.
I wish I could just not give a shit about making like I feel like if there's like 2 minutes in my act that people aren't laughing, I'm like, oh, I bombed and I should kill myself. And why would anybody pay their good money and their good Tulsa dollars to come see this bullshit? They could go see Wilco.
Yeah. You know what's crazy?
great
It's,
reference. Yeah.
Sarah's act and my act are literally polar opposite. I barely move on stage, and there is literally barely inflection in my voice, you know? And like, speaking of like, you like what the other person does, I love what Sarah does. And Sarah recommended me for this fest.
That's awesome.
And I was like, that's
There
so
you go.
crazy
Nice.
that you do like what other people do, even
Of
when
course.
it's so different.
I
you know?
prefer what other people do.
Yeah, exclusively,
Yeah.
almost.
That's really, man, that's so funny. I remember after the show, what I said, the two people in here, they were at the show, and I looked at Ava and I was like, Ava, was that funny? I don't know. Will I remember it for the rest of my life? Absolutely.
The Sarah show?
The
Yeah.
Sarah show.
This is not a ringing endorsement. I don't think. I would hate if people talked about my show. Was it funny?
we're-
I don't know.
We're going for different
Am I
things,
gonna
though.
vomit?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't
You
know.
will vomit.
For sure. I got
You
queasy,
go
for
in
sure.
drunk, you will
Sure.
throw up.
No, that was wild.
It was fun. I remember I was just looking out. I was like, this is a fucking party.
Yeah.
This set is like
I mean,
Sure.
it was like, it was, this is going to sound so lame. It was like art where you're like,
for
this
sure.
is like, because usually I don't call stand-up art because that's
No.
fucking crazy.
What's worse is when somebody calls their own stand-up
Oh
art.
yeah, like
I don't
my
mind
art
if somebody.
is so difficult. My art.
Yeah.
I almost said a
You know.
comedian's name
It's
as
only
I said that.
technically art. It's like
it?
technically this
It
is.
can be art. That's the problem with saying, like
I
what
mean-
you're saying. Like it's
Yeah, it can
What she
be.
does is,
And
yeah.
like also it's technically art in the way that when there's a drop down menu and if there are 5 choices, you would put it under art because you're not like, I'm not an engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to say I'm an artist.
Yeah,
you know, but it's
exactly.
not.
Have
Yeah.
you seen the gear in here? We are like
That's true.
we're
We're doing
sometimes
everything.
more engineer than artists.
Not
Especially
me.
now. Yeah.
but people who make money, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's no, that's interesting. I feel like I'm pissed I didn't see that show, but I like the idea. You said it's like a party.
Yeah.
I like that vibe.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Again, I don't want to ruin her act, but she didn't. She started in the crowd,
Yeah.
and it was like fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like she was just like having a fun time coming
Yeah.
up to stage, just like fucking with people, fucking with the venue,
Yeah.
and then made her way. And it was just like by the time she got
Oh, she
up there,
fucks with the venue? That's disrespectful. I
well,
don't like that.
well, not like
Canceled.
like
I'm just
punching
kidding.
it, but like by the time she got on stage, it was like, oh, you kind of own this place.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like
The
made
cool
her-
part was like, so she was doing this thing where she was like in the crowd, she's like pretending to be a ghost, and like no one's laughing for like 2 minutes. She's like, y'all aren't laughing, you guys hate women, fuck you, and just like, keeps doing it.
That's great.
And like 3 more minutes go by and everybody's like howling, and she's like still doing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool.
She's a star. Like
Yeah, she
that's
really is.
There are some
Yeah.
people you see and you're just like,
Yeah.
that person is a star.
Yeah.
They can do whatever the fuck they want,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
that is a beautiful quality.
Yeah.
Because I would do. I would picture myself. Last night I tried to do a new bit, and I immediately was like, "This is bombing," and I just made fun of the bit for like.
Yeah.
I would call it back and be like, "Remember that fucking bit that sucked?" It's like I lose confidence
Yeah.
so fast.
Yeah, like she has the ability to be like, I think it's funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah,
And that's,
I know what's funny.
which is like how we perceive it. I'm sure the way she is in her head is probably like,
yeah.
I'm a clown.
Yeah,
and
she's
that's
probably
literally
like,
what
I
she's doing.
suck,
She's
I'm
like,
gonna
I'm a
kill
clown.
myself.
Yeah.
I fucking hate myself and I wish I was dead. She probably thinks that.
I told Cody this
Just
earlier.
projecting. She probably has a missing dad.
Yeah, her
He's probably dead.
Indian dad probably
Yeah,
abandoned her.
yeah, that's the problem. Those Indian dads, they'll die very soon.
What were you saying?
I was just saying, I was like this thing about being yourself. I told you this earlier, where it's like I randomly was just like I got on some kick of like watching like '90s rap music videos, and eventually like a lot of them were really great. And then I came across Old Dirty Bastard, and I was just like, oh, he's just so himself,
Right.
like he unapologetically
Yeah,
himself. To
yeah.
where it's like this is cool.
Yeah.
Because he's just so out there and doesn't give
Yeah.
a fuck.
Yeah.
It makes it cool.
Yeah.
And like the Odd Wolf or the like Tyler the Creator and all those guys like kind of did the same thing.
Yeah.
Where, like there's something where it's like whenever you're so out there and don't give a shit, people
Yeah.
respect it.
Yeah. And also, like, okay, my therapist was like trying to get me to figure whatever I think out, like whatever I prefer. And one of the selling points he had was like, you know, it makes you a better comic when you know who you are. And I was like, holy
Fuck.
shit.
That's true.
So true. Like,
There's
there's.
session 1, brother.
That is hard though.
I mean, I was
I'd
like,
be so
great
bad.
selling point. I will never stop paying you. So thanks. But yeah, it's true. Like every comic you see that you like is unapologetic. Like Bill Burr will never apologize for something he said, even
Yeah.
though there are multiple things that I'm like, I disagree with what you're saying, and it's funny also.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because-
impressive.
yeah.
Do you think you know who you are? Like not to sound too
Jesus
deep,
Christ.
but,
I have to pee so bad. I
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
he's like,
I'll
can
be
you
right
listen to
back.
this question? And
You know what would be
this is
really
gonna be a
great for
45-minute
content is
answer.
if you peed in your beer bottle.
yeah. But like, I don't know. I guess that's something I was like, because I said that
Yeah.
thing where it's like, I was like, dude, I think I'm like some weird, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I mean, I don't know. Like I don't know what I know what I like.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is about that thing that I like.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
just know that, okay, this is appealing to me, but what is it about that thing that's appealing to me?
Yeah, yeah.
And then once you figure that out, you can kind of internalize like, oh, then if I do this, then I will be the thing that I like. You know, I will start acting in the way that like I prefer.
Yeah.
But you have to first figure out what it is you prefer
Yeah.
in that.
It's interesting you phrase it like that because this is going to lead into a question I really wanted to ask you. Is like, so my podcast, it's a comedy like philosophy podcast, I would call it. Today we're more just like hanging out, fucking around.
Yeah.
But when it's like a one-on-one episode, like the things that I try to tap into are how, why, and who. So I think everybody likes to talk, or everybody's good at talking about what they do and like what they're about.
Yeah.
But I'm more interested in like how we go about things, why we do those things, and who we become along the way. Like that,
Right.
I obsess over those things. And so, and within that context, you started as a teacher, middle school, right? Mm-hmm. And
Tough.
Yeah, tough.
now you're a stand-up comedian. What did you always want to do stand-up? Like, why teaching, and then why stand-up?
Well, okay, I started with international relations and Arabic. So I wanted to work for the State Department. And then I was like, this is fucking pointless. And then I was like, I should do something that makes a difference, like one-on-one. And I did Teach for America. I did it for 2 years. And I was like, oh, this feels good. But I was also doing stand-up, and I was like, I can't be good in the classroom if I'm out till 3 a.m. And I have to be at work at like 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And then when I left the country for a year, I did this like program called Fulbright, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go back to whatever. And I was like, the only thing,
Nice.
yeah. Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
I mean,
very
it's
cool.
over.
Yeah.
but
But it's like a tough thing to get.
yeah. It's it was a fun thing to do, but that's actually why I did it. Is I think everything I do is externally
Tough.
motivated, and
okay.
it's
Really?
tough because I want to achieve. And so you go for a tough thing so that you're like, oh, I achieved this.
Yeah.
And you're happy for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then you're like, now I have to achieve the other thing that's going to make me feel this good. And then you just keep going on a circle. And I think I started doing stand-up because I was like, you can do that every night. You can achieve something tonight, and then tomorrow you'll get the same feeling if you just have a great fucking set again, you know? So it's like over and over, you can be like, I'm better, and I'm doing it, and I'm doing it, and I'm doing it. And it's very instant. It's like immediate gratification.
That's the best part of it.
It's the best.
Everything else you do feels stupid compared to it because you're like, oh, I'm just doing this, and who knows what's going to happen. And those things can be way bigger than the stand-up part.
Right.
But the instant gratification of being on stage and getting a laugh, you're like, especially a joke you just wrote or a riff or something, you're like, oh, I'm a genius. You're like, I'm on fire. It feels like incredible. And then an hour after your set, or even sometimes minutes after, you're like, well, that was gone. That's
and now I gotta
over.
do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like I better do it
Yeah.
just
When
as
can I
well.
get on stage again?
It's like when you bomb, the first thing you do is I need to get back on stage, like immediately. You know what I mean? Like I need to go fix this so I don't feel this way about myself like right now.
Yeah.
I was my ex was he used to work in sustainability, so like to fix global warming for the for the UN,
He
right?
did it.
Yeah, I know. But also I was like,
fixed.
how opposite is that you have a long-term goal?
It's like
that's
literally unachievable to see
it's
like the
by
positivity in your
2050 you will-
lifetime.
by fucking definition,
Yeah.
sustainability is long-term. Like there is no end to it. Yeah.
That's tough.
Versus I'm like, every night has to be like, like this has got to happen over and over for me
Right.
to find meaning
Yeah, but you
in what
need
I'm
both,
doing.
right? Like that sustainability thing. It's just like so.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to tap into. Is you said that. Would you define it as like externally motivated, like the external experiences? Would that I can see there being like good sides to that, where it's like I write a good joke, I feel good, so I want to do it again. But is there also a point where it like becomes a negative, or do you think that you're in the exact right career where it's like that type of feedback loop is essential?
It's such a negative. You shouldn't have to rely on other people to feel good. Like that's like a basic,
I wanted to see if you saw it that way.
Oh, I know it's bad.
Okay.
Because he was
I'm
going to
not
tell
gonna
you.
stop thinking about it like that though, because
No, she knows. She'll be in next week for a normal.
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you later.
it's one of those things where you're like, I know my behavior is bad,
Yeah.
but I'm not
But
gonna
it's
fix
also
it.
It is
like
kind of fun to have things like that, though,
Yeah.
where you're like, we all know what to do.
Right,
Drink
yeah.
water, walk a lot, like
Yeah.
don't look at your phone too much.
Stop
Yeah.
smoking.
I know you're not
Yeah.
I know you're not supposed to like look at your phone 30 minutes before bed.
Yeah.
Almost
Yeah.
every night I fall asleep with my phone falling into my face
Yeah.
as I'm laying down. Like
Yeah.
I wake up for a second because my phone hits my head.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at it as I fall asleep. I know
Yeah.
it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like same with this, like I know I do the
Right.
same thing. We're like the same dude.
Yeah.
The external.
Yeah.
I am
Just
only. Like,
Just two boys.
It is. No, the external
great
validation
toes.
thing.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah.
Don't do that.
Do that.
Do you want to make money or not? Okay.
How am I making money?
Yeah. Tom's running the.
Yes.
The appearance fee between us.
Tom's my pimp.
I'm pimping out Casey's feet.
No, the follow-up question I had to that is, I would say that from like a equilibrium, just in a vacuum, like mental health perspective, a psychologist might say, oh yeah, that's like a bad way to do it. But like pursuing stand-up is also a very unique occupation. And my question is, do you think that to ascend to a high level at something in a unique way, your brain might need to be wired in a different way? Like,
yeah, I mean, that's why you can't stop thinking like that, right? Because it would be insane if I was like, I get validation from within, so don't laugh. That would...
You would
That's-
say.
Because then you wouldn't need it.
because
Yeah.
I only write jokes. So if you don't laugh, then it's not a joke. It's just a sentence.
Yeah.
So you can't just go on stage saying sentences, you know? Like, then you're not going to be good. So you do need that fucked up thing of being like, if you guys don't like me, I will go home and kill myself.
Yeah.
Like, you need that.
You
You
can
know?
do that,
So-
or you can switch it to now this is a one-person show.
Right. Yeah.
This is no
This is
longer-
a one-woman show, and you don't have to laugh.
But yeah, I just said that. That is a sentence.
Yeah.
But
Just
it
presenting
actually is
something.
important.
There's this comic in Austin who says when he's like bombing on stage, he'll be like, you know, you realize jokes are just words, and I'm saying a lot of them. And it's so funny because it's true. Ultimately, you're like, it's just words, you know?
The final question I had to that, which what I was trying to get to is, so you said you're in therapy, you're like trying to improve like at least some aspect of mental health.
Yeah.
Do you ever have a fear that it's like, if I improve in the way that this therapist suggests, will I lose a certain edge in my stand-up? Because maybe if I'm like less mentally askew in this way, I won't need this validation as bad, so I'll become complacent or less.
No,
You
I
fear
don't
that?
think. I don't think you have to be fucked up to be good.
Okay.
you know, I think.
I know some people do believe that.
Yeah, but I think what my therapist said is right? Like where if you figure out who you are and what you like, it will actually only make you better.
Okay.
There is no way it's going to make you worse at what you do because you know what you like and who you are, you know? And if those are the things that are plaguing you, then you better fucking figure it out so you can, you know, become Bill Burr. Like that's
I will
also
shave
not the
my
right
head,
way to
you
look at therapy. You shouldn't be like, I'm doing it for my career. But it's true. Like it's not gonna
I think
fixing
both
yourself
things can
isn't
be
gonna
true, though. Like you can do it for your own sake and for
yeah,
career
you know,
improvement.
okay, so there are comics, for
There are
instance,
comics.
like us who drink, okay?
Sure.
Great. And you think like drinking is a part of your personality. I have been drinking for so long that I'm like, this is part of who I am, as
Yeah.
I'm like a big drinker, you know? And you think, oh, if I fix this, will I lose that part of who I am? But then look at Attell. Like he did stop, and and I'm sure for a long time he was like, if I stop drinking, who am I? If my identity was a show that is about drinking, who do I
Yeah.
become?
Interesting.
But it didn't stop making him funny. It just improved his life. You know, like that's the thing is people think if you fix yourself, you're going to lose something. But there's
No,
almost
it's
no
the
way.
other way. I think like people that idea of like being fucked up helps you. I think it's fully the opposite. Like I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
the times that I was the most fucked up, like depressed, whatever, it's like I didn't write shit. I was
Yeah.
terrible. I was
Yeah.
a terrible comedian in those times. I would still be able to go through the motions, but like when I was good is when I was able to reflect on those times
Yeah.
when I
Right.
was out of it.
Yeah.
Coming out of it
Yeah.
was always the better part.
Do you think there's anything about living like I heard, you know, we were talking about this earlier, like there are comedians that have like been strippers, and we were talking to a comedian earlier
Right.
who like went to a glory hole, and he's like telling us this crazy
Whoa,
story.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
this morning.
That was this
Wait,
morning.
what?
Yeah. We did my radio show this morning, and one of the other comedians that's on the festival.
Well,
On the festival.
he literally forged a pass and told him he was supposed to be on a show.
Whoa.
Like, oh, we didn't get the email. So he forged the email and he got up.
Oh my God.
This
That
is the
is
same guy that went to a
genius.
glory hole.
Oh
Like,
my
his-
God.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
This
That
guy's
is
a fucking
insane.
risk taker.
What a-
He is, yeah.
I would watch a documentary about
Right?
that guy.
This is like Anna
That's
Delvey. He's
crazy.
like a
Yeah.
real.
It's actually insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
continue.
But it was just like, do you think there's anything about like, oh, because sometimes I feel like I'm a boring person. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like,
I'm just kidding.
I've known you for 1 hour.
So you are self-aware. Oh my God.
Self-aware is important. I know who I am.
Yeah.
That's the important part. But it's just like, do you ever like, if you give this up or whatever, like
Right.
you see this as something that gets you into like certain situations where it's
Right.
like, now we're doing something crazy.
I feel that. See, I like drinking. I
Yeah.
think it's fully in the way. Like I
yeah.
don't need to drink to be funny,
Yeah.
or like when I'm like anytime I'm like taping a special or something, I don't drink for like a month or whatever, and I'm way better. Like I'm
Yeah.
way better at comedy not drinking at all.
Yeah.
I'm just bored, and so
Yeah.
and I like the taste.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm trying. I don't do it as like this is making me a better stand up, and I don't
Yeah.
know what I
That
am
would be
without it.
Terrible.
That
I
would
just
be
think,
awful.
I don't feel
Yeah.
like that at all. I know I'm better sober. I just it adds a little flair. It adds a little. I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like if I was somebody who was like angry or you know like
Yeah.
If you're a bad
or-
drunk.
If I was a
Yeah.
bad drunk,
Yeah.
I would hate it or I wouldn't do it anymore.
why I don't
Like,
smoke
I don't
If you
smoke.
get in
I don't
trouble
smoke a lot of weed.
you stop. You know, but you're like, it's not like it's not a problem. Like, because it's not getting in my way. It's not getting in the way of my career. I'm doing fine. But you also know actively that if I didn't wake up hungover, I would have written something. And I
Yeah.
don't.
But
and
is
I
that- is
know
that
Sometimes
that.
I write hungover though. I don't know, but
Yeah.
you are right. I mean, at the end of the day,
if I was less hungover
yes.
every day,
At
I
the end
would
of the
do
day,
it.
it would be better.
Yeah.
To
Like I
not
don't drink
do
when
it.
I'm working.
Yeah.
Like when I'm like when I was doing SNL, I would only drink on Saturdays.
That's how I did.
Get
yeah.
so fucking hammered though,
Yeah.
like so bad. But
That
on
rules.
Sunday, I was like, it's recovery.
Yeah.
And then Monday to Saturday, I'm not fucking
Sure.
drinking because
Yeah.
you care about this and you're like, I don't want to be not focused.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, like if you're taping a
Do you
special
ever
or something,
think
you don't.
this is what fucks me up sometimes though? So you get into that mode,
Yeah.
and then I had a similar thing. I was writing on a show and I was not drinking because I was like, I have to be up at
Yeah.
6 if I want to go to the gym before I go to work. And then I'm working, I'm focused. I was like, what if I treated my career
Yeah.
like that,
But
like a
stand-up's
job?
So like, right? Like it's you don't think of it as a job because you're like, you don't have to write every day.
I know. Yeah. You're
And-
your own boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. And it's also like
tricky.
that doesn't even work half the time.
Yeah.
Like when I have tried to do it that way, I'm just miserable and I'm not writing
Yeah.
funny stuff because I'm like
You know,
banging my head against the
There's
wall.
something I was listening to someone. They're like, it's not always about writing. It's about finding how to get into the headspace to write, which is like
Right.
something I've thought about a lot. Where it's like I told you I got laid off, so like I have like
Yeah.
5 months to just
yeah.
fuck
Oh, yeah.
off.
I
and,
know.
like,
I
do
have
whatever.
been.
And like I've been trying to write every day, and there's some mornings where it's just like, dude, there's something on my mind that I just can't stop thinking about,
Yeah.
and it's not productive at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
and
but
then you
also-
write and you're like, this was nothing. But
Do you guys have any
Yeah.
tips to like is there a way that you guys get into certain headspaces to like be able to write?
I confessionally like I don't write every day. I don't.
I don't-
I
yeah.
don't write every day, and I barely ever sit down to write stand up, which
Yeah.
is not good.
I don't either though.
I don't either.
I don't think
Like,
that's how I do. I don't think a
Yeah.
lot of stand-ups do. I think there's a dishonesty in stand-up
Right?
comedy.
I think so too.
Where
I'm like,
people
there's no
pretend they're
fucking way
writing.
you're doing this.
And I think though, like for at least for me, there's multiple ways that it happens. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's in the shower. Sometimes it's like I have realized like if I don't look at my phone, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So sometimes my writing is me laying in bed, not looking at anything
Yeah.
and forcing myself to just lay there with my eyes closed and trying to picture being on stage.
Yeah.
I used to do it when I would do long drives when I lived in the Midwest. I would do long drives and I would make because I knew I had to be on stage that night.
Right.
So I was like, well, I have to say something. And
Yeah.
so then I would
Yeah.
write most of my hours stuff that I said to myself in the car
Yeah.
rather than sitting down pen and paper. I don't know. I can only think of like one joke in my act that I remember sitting down and being like, I have to write a bit right now.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
that lasted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it usually comes. I have like mild insomnia, so I can't sleep like a lot of nights. And that's when it comes because the only thing I write about are things that bother me that I've been like thinking about nonstop. And so, you know, like that is good for two reasons. One, everything is a personal thing on stage. So no one can, you know, replicate this in the same way because it's like a personal thing. But it bothers you so much that you are naturally funny about it because so it doesn't feel it doesn't feel the same as my job. Where at my job, I'm like, every day I have to produce 25 to 30 jokes, like have to do it. So it's a schedule. But this is not a job. This is like just things I've been thinking about.
It's an art form.
Ooh.
How about that, huh?
And we are artists.
You know,
I need a beer.
This is something I've been doing lately because I was struggling with just like the sit down pen and paper.
Yeah.
Is what I'll do when I'm in motion, I think better. So I'll go on a walk and voice record and just like talk a bunch of things out.
I've done that too, yeah.
Then I'll go listen to it with pen and paper, and you can like key in on the best points.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that has been like a much more efficient method.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know, because I'll do that where I when I lived in Brooklyn, I would do this
I knew
thing.
that's how it would come in handy.
I would walk to
Cover your toes.
I would walk to
Only slut in here is Hamza.
what the hell?
And that slut over there.
What the hell? What is this show?
What is
She has a
You
bit
bring
about
us
that.
to a dark hotel room
Yeah.
and you
Oh,
fucking
we were telling someone today, and she was like, maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's something else. And we were like, maybe.
Yeah, it
we
could
don't
be.
know.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's
you?
why I sent you guys a picture of the studio setup. I was like, this is a real thing.
Anybody
by the
could
way.
get
Bring
a
up
screenshot
I
of
didn't
a
look at
fucking.
that picture.
Anybody could get a
You
picture
guys
of
did
us.
this. My penis was in the corner. You didn't see that?
This is a very porn setup. You're
Yeah,
like,
it
get
is.
on
I
the
was just
couch,
thinking that,
get
like,
on
the-
this,
the-
yeah.
Oh, don't worry, we got the suite at the
Yeah.
hotel. Like,
It is
sit.
cool. It is a baller move.
yeah. Do you guys want to be famous?
No, I would post
no.
crowd work clips if I.
You try to get followers. You mean.
Yes.
Casey, I was talking about being a teacher earlier, and you mentioned we were talking earlier that you did have to keep the stand-up a little bit of a secret because maybe
Oh,
the
yeah.
parents or administrators weren't fans of it. How did you balance that, and how did you know when to like fully take off? Be like, all right, I'm good enough to abandon this teaching.
Well, like I was like, at a certain point, I was like, I think I'm going to stop teaching on my own accord. I was like,
independent of stand-up.
independent of stand-up.
Okay.
I was like, just because, bureaucracy, this system's fucked, whatever. And I was like, you know what I should do is just go make money. I know I can just go make money. I can take a test and I can go to law school, just make some fucking money,
Yeah.
And I was like, whatever, I'll just do that. And then that's when I was still like never posting anything. So I would just, because I didn't want to be a stand-up. I was like, I just want to do stand-up. I don't want to be a stand-up.
Okay.
And then there was this show I did that was like a roast battle that was for like LOL Network, which is like,
Kevin Hart's thing, right? Yep.
Yeah, and that was like when I was 2 months into stand-up or something.
Whoa.
Some guy saw me at an open mic, and then he was the director, Craig Brewer, who does like Hustle and Flow. Like he's a huge Memphis guy. And he was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, sure. And I didn't think anything about it because it was $400. And I was like, nice.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
And then I did it. And then they put it on YouTube. And my kids found it because my name is so unique.
Yeah.
It's the
Sure.
only name that comes up on
Yeah.
Google. And then they came up to me. And I remember this kid coming up. She was such a good girl. And she came up to me and she's like, hey, everyone's been saying they saw you on YouTube. And I saw this clip. Is it you? And I looked at her and I was like, it's not me. And don't ever fucking tell anyone about it. I was like,
her by
stop
the
talking
jaw.
about
Oh
it.
my God.
I felt
This never happened.
I know. I felt so bad. I was like, she's such a good kid. And she's trying to relate to me, being like, I saw this. And then the comments on that YouTube video are all like, she was my English teacher. She's fucking crazy.
shit.
Yeah.
She's crazy.
Yeah.
She's fucking crazy.
If you thought these roasts were dark, you should hear what she tells
Yeah.
us.
She's fucking
Yeah,
crazy.
it's all just comments of, she's a huge bitch, like all of this shit. But I already knew I was gonna quit teaching at that point, so I was like, okay, that's whatever. And I was going to Columbia that year anyway, so I was like, it doesn't really matter if they see it. But yeah, I
So then
didn't
how'd
tell
you
them.
transition from Columbia to where you are now? Was that what decision led to that, or are you still at Columbia and I just don't know that?
No, Columbia, the country.
Oh,
Not the university.
I thought you were talking about law school, and I was like,
I was like, we're in Tulsa. No,
I thought maybe you were
Are
going
you
to school.
are you in Columbia right
yeah,
now?
are we doing this?
I thought she was like,
Is Columbia in the room?
No, I don't know. I mean, honestly, a huge like part of it was when you were growing up Asian, everyone say like your parents are like, you have to fucking, achieve. And then I was like, I don't have to. And then my parents also kind of stopped caring. They retired, like they like got chill, And I was like, I was just recruiting. I was doing this online job. I would go on the road because it was online. And then I got JFL. And then I got my first writing gig. And I worked that writing gig and my regular job for like 2 weeks, like at the same time, because I gave my 2-week notice, and then I was just like, but
and
I would
fulfilled the 2 weeks. Very noble of you.
Right. I mean, not, I didn't work.
Nobody does.
But it's one of those things where, like,
thing you even have to do that.
It's so crazy too, because I couldn't bring myself to quit for, like, even if I was making enough money, I couldn't bring myself to quit my day job, because I was like, I have to make money to live on my own. Because my ex at the time was making like really good money, and he was like, if you quit, I'll support you, whatever.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, there's no fucking way I can't live with myself being like, someone else pays my bills.
Dude,
that's
that
crazy.
is a tough fucking thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that too. Or I'm like, I don't understand how people are comfortable.
I can't.
And I get, like, if you like have a kid or something,
Right.
like, I do get that balance or whatever, but like, I just can't imagine being like, I'm fully cool with like somebody supporting me. Like,
Yeah, you
it
pay the
feels
whole
crazy.
rent. Like,
I've dated people where it's like their parents were paying
oh yeah,
their like rent, and I was like, how are you okay? Like,
I hated that too, because it was always like, it's always people who are like, you're not putting, they will talk to someone else and be like, you're not putting everything into it. And I'm like, you don't have a job.
yeah, fuck
I
you.
have a
Yeah.
job
Yeah.
and I am here.
Yeah.
Like when I was a teacher, I remember doing like turn and burns, where I would like go to a different city that night, do a show, drive back the same night, and go teach in the morning at like 7. So I would get home at like 3
Damn.
after like a 3-hour drive each way.
Yeah.
And then you go and teach.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I am putting everything into
Dude,
it. It's
yeah.
just not,
Yeah.
I did that. I worked at a hospital when I started, and I like was working full time. I was going to school full time, and I was trying to do comedy.
Jesus
And
Christ.
so, I look now at the comics who were kind of in a similar spot, but they don't have a job. Their parents are helping them,
Right.
and then they're doing all this comedy shit, and they're posting like clips that are high quality, and I'm like,
'Cause
we
you
have different
they
lives.
have a nice camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like we have
insane.
different because I'll be like, oh, why didn't I do that? And I'm like, oh, I didn't have any fucking money.
Yeah.
I don't come from money. Like,
Which also I hate. Like, I don't mind it when they are good comics. I
oh
hate
yeah,
when they're not.
when they're bad, and
when
there
they're
are.
bad, then
there's
it's
some
like,
bad ones.
It's also annoying because you're like, oh, people will say you have to go up 3 times a night if you're in New York.
No, you don't.
No, you don't, because I'm always
I hate
like,
when
you're
people say
not
that
writing
shit.
new shit.
That's the thing.
You're
No, they're
just
going
going
up and
up
doing
again
the
and
same
again.
shit,
Yeah.
or they're doing crowd work.
Yeah,
and it's like
and
at an open mic, and you're like, why the fuck
Why
are
would I
you? What
do
is it
that?
making you better? It's not. Like people say that about New York.
Yeah.
The beauty of New York is you can go up a
Right.
lot.
You don't
have to.
You don't
like,
have to.
If you go up 5 times a week, you are doing good.
You're doing good.
Yeah.
And if it's 5 quality sets
Yeah.
versus like some bar show where you're like, there's 5 people here.
Yeah.
And
When
we were talking about this earlier where you're like,
Yeah.
there's 5 people here and I'm trying my best.
I'm
and
trying
that's
to
so
do
dumb.
A material,
Yeah.
and you look insane.
Yeah.
But like when I first moved to New York, everybody was like, I was hanging out with comics. They were like, we're going to go to this mic and this
Right.
mic and this mic, and I would go, and I was like, that third one was not valuable for me
it's not
at
worth
all.
it.
Yeah.
It's not
At
worth the
all.
time because you could go home and write.
Yeah,
And-
I'm better if I'm enjoying
or you could go
my
home
life.
and live,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
later a joke will come.
Well, and I was also already doing the road, so I was
Right.
like, I'm going to go do. I was featuring, and I was like, I'm gonna go do 30-minute sets 5 times this weekend, and I can try some shit. Oh yeah, sorry, is this
No. He
dead?
has to change the cameras.
Oh, gotcha.
Camera, so I got to cycle the battery.
One of the
gotcha,
things
gotcha.
that you're talking about how New York is nice. I think that there's no free laughs in New York.
Yeah.
I think that in like at least when in Oklahoma, like I'll
Well,
Are
have
there
you
free
seen a hot
laughs?
guy go on stage?
Oh,
There are
yeah,
some
there's
free
some free laughs.
Yeah.
Oh, a hot guy on stage is getting some.
hot guys on stage get free laughs.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
You're a hot guy. You're a hot guy. You ever get free laughs? Sorry, hot white guys.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, hot women do, you know,
How women
great.
get? How women? I mean,
Yeah, but
how
but
people get booked? You
Yeah.
want to see
How
'em.
women
Get less, so I
get
think.
less
Yeah.
free laughs. I
Yeah.
agree. I
because
think
like
more.
there's the audience is usually men, and men when they see a hot girl are defensive somehow.
Well, there's,
Yeah.
there's
Like,
also
they're-
an element. There are women in the crowd, and they're not laughing at
Right.
hot girls like
Yeah,
they
'cause
are
they're
at
like,
hot
"Fuck
guys.
you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like
Yeah,
judging
yeah.
their outfits and
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
always, but
Right,
like
right.
I do think you see more success from hot guy. Like,
Yeah.
they kill for saying nothing, and that's
Yeah.
like the crowd work shit that I really hate. Where I'm like, it's nothing.
Yeah,
the
you're
act
like,
is
oh, you
nothing.
All
just-
right.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
everyone's like,
They're like,
Yeah,
I will
I've done
fuck you,
shows.
and they just love it. Oh
It's
my
like
god!
it's like hanging out. It's like when you're in high. It feels like high school again, where you're like this. Like a girl will be like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, Brian is so funny," and it's like, no, he's not.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a hot guy, and you laugh at everything
Yeah.
he fucking
Yeah,
says.
yeah.
That piece of shit.
yeah, white guys that are hot enough to get away with black scent is.
Oh, yeah.
that's the,
Just say Matt
yeah,
Rice.
just say it.
dude.
Just say it. Why would you?
If you're gonna say that,
Oh
you
my
might as well
God.
say Matt Rice.
With one syllable.
But it's
That's
also
so
like no,
funny.
but that's like in middle school too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that was a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Bryce is
Yeah,
hilarious.
Yeah.
Bryce is crazy.
Yeah.
It's just like
Bryce always
Everything
says he has
Bryce
black
says.
friends, but I've never seen him with one.
yeah.
There's obviously also, there's like hot guys who are just funny, and then that's
Yeah, of
like
course.
respectable.
I actually think Rife is funny.
Well, I don't want to talk
Yeah,
about
I don't
this.
wanna- yeah, I don't
This
wanna
is
get into
insane.
it.
We're even talking about
Yeah.
this.
But
No, they're very like Matt Broussard is very funny.
Broussard's
My buddy
Oh,
David,
yeah, yeah.
David Drake is super
But
funny.
something about-
He's a very hot guy.
You know what I think? Matt Broussard, very handsome guy.
Oh,
Not-
yeah.
not intimidating. And that might sound
yeah,
weird.
Matt is very nice.
But
Yeah,
it just
he's
seems
It's also
unassuming.
really
you
funny
could
what
go
guys
talk to him.
think
Like,
is
it's like-
hot.
Like, seems
What's that?
It's also very funny what guys think is hot.
that's fair. I don't know
It's
what makes
I'm
really
it
sorry.
funny to me that you're like David Drake.
Okay,
Matt
David
Broussard.
Drake is a hot guy.
I
You
think,
don't
I think
think
they're
so?
both attractive. I just wouldn't be like
David Drake?
in my Mount Rushmore
He's
of
a
hot
Brooklyn-
guys.
I'm trying to think of
They
who
are on
in
it.
the
I mean,
Mount
they're both
Rush are.
so fucking nice.
Yes.
But it's, yeah.
You know,
What the fuck?
there are certain actors that are like hot that just blow my mind. Like,
Right.
I mean,
get the-
Chalamet, I don't
get
understand
the
at
Chalamet.
all. Yeah.
You guys don't get it?
No, and my wife will be like, "No, he's
Oh, no,
really
he's,
hot."
like, hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't. He looks like a baby girl to me. He looks like a lesbian,
It's just
exactly.
very
He's
bony.
your baby girl. Yeah. that's the
which is
whole
cool.
beauty. Yeah.
I am attracted to him, but not as a man.
Yeah.
As a baby girl. You're like, he's my baby girl and I'm
He's
his
my baby girl, and I'm his baby. We can be baby girls
Baby
together.
girls together. Adrian
No.
Brody's one that I've never understood.
Who?
Adrian Brody.
Oh, I get it with
Adam.
him.
Yeah.
I get it with
Adam
him.
Brody, I do get.
Wait, is
Who's
it Adam
Adam
Brody?
Brody?
No, who's
Adam Brody's the guy from. Wasn't he on the OC?
No. I'm thinking of Marriage Story.
Adam. What the fuck
Kylo
is that
Ren.
guy's name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Adam
about.
Driver.
I don't
Yeah.
get that one.
You
I don't
think
get
he's
that
hot?
one.
He's so hot. He's
Yeah.
so hot.
Yeah, no, that
Women-
guy's.
This is the
You're
problem.
like David Drake and Adam Driver.
This is the problem. Women are dumb. they don't
Now we're
even
talking.
understand what's hot.
You guys have to explain what's hot to me.
I don't get it.
Women
This is
are
what
actually
attractive
gay.
men
What's
are.
attractive about that guy? He looks
Adam
like a-
Driver,
Adam Driver was a Marine.
sure.
So
Okay,
salute
but if he wasn't?
one.
But he feels like
If
how
he wasn't, you still feel like he
has Marine
is
energy.
broody and like
don't get me wrong.
smokes
I love that
in the
guy.
backpack.
I think he's a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
actor,
But
which
that's
is
what's
hot.
hot about him.
Of course.
But-
So it's just a guy like with who's good at his job.
that can be hot. But
Elon Musk. no, I'm just kidding.
okay, it's like have you ever seen a comic that you're like objectively unattractive? On stage, very attractive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like
Yes.
that.
Of course.
That's Adam Driver in every movie.
Which tech
Yeah.
CEO is the hottest?
Ooh.
That's the Elon. No, I don't know.
Oh, who's Serena Williams' husband? He's kind
Oh,
of
the
hot.
Reddit guy.
Yeah.
Reddit
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Is he hot?
Alex.
He's kinda hot.
O'Manishin or something.
He's hot because he's sort of a
Alexa.
feminist.
How much money-
You know,
he's
he's
so-
kind of like,
but not over the
like,
top
yeah,
like
but
the
like
guy.
a rich feminist with power.
Yeah,
He's a powerful
That's what you want.
feminist.
He doesn't
Yeah.
do the cut off
Yeah,
sleeves. That's
yeah.
the thing.
He's a guy who can be like, oh, you know who's so hot for just feminism? He's this tennis player. His name's fuck, I can't think of his name, but he has all these interviews where people will be like, they'll be like, oh, you're the first tennis player
Andy
to
Murray.
win. Andy Murray.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
And
And he
then he
always
goes,
corrects him.
and he goes, you mean male player?
Yeah.
And every time I see those
Wow.
videos, I'm like, that's
Yeah.
the most attractive thing
I
I've
do hate
ever
that he
heard
does
someone say
that.
that.
You
I know, but
Andy
he's so
Murray's
powerful.
funny.
He's like the
He's very
doctor
funny.
was.
Yeah,
You know-
yeah, exactly. He
Yeah.
literally is like the doctor's
You know
own.
who you'd probably be into? The manager for the San Francisco Giants is
Oh,
maybe the
okay.
hottest guy in the world. I
Oh,
gotta pull
okay.
a
Never seen
picture
this guy, but
because he's like
Who is
he's
it?
also
Is it
like
Brad-
he's also
I
like
love that.
he's in an industry where he
is
should
it
not
Brad
be a
Pitt and
feminist.
Jonah Hill?
But he clearly is
Ooh.
like, and it's San Francisco, so it's like
Right,
you know.
so you gotta
So
be.
he's gay.
Yeah, is he?
He's probably gay, but I'm gonna look him up.
I love a guy who's like a sports guy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I don't like sports, but I do like when guys are like, I watch basketball.
Is it
tonight,"
because they're
you know?
they're
You're like,
a stupid amount of commitment to something?
Yes,
Is that what you
yeah,
like?
because they're just so obsessed with this thing.
Yeah.
And
I
you
love
get
it.
like 2 hours off every night from talking to them. You're like, now we don't have to talk, so that's good.
Dude, my girl lets me watch every game.
Yeah. I'm like,
there
yeah,
is
go to
something
the
great.
bar, man.
where like their team
Get outta
loses
here.
and now everyone has to have a bad
Oh,
time.
I
See,
really
that's-
love when their team loses and they're physically angry, where they're like, fuck, and you're like, oh my god, that is,
Yeah, yeah.
that's hot.
really
This is the guy.
Oh, yeah, I
he's
love
like,
him.
But he's like a
Oh,
feminist
my
too. Look at his
God.
eyes. He's a hot fucking
And look
guy.
at how he's aged.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. He's
It's
got
like
the beard.
weathered
He's a
and
hot
cool.
guy.
That guy looks like he was made by CGI.
Yeah.
Wow,
He is
look
a
at
hot
this-
guy.
Hat.
But he's also, you listen to him in interviews, and he's like a smart dude. He's very eloquent,
the
and he's like a
Giants are
feminist.
baseball?
They're a baseball team. Yeah,
San Francisco.
Oh,
San
how do you-
Francisco's.
So he's
Like, how do you
tech.
be a feminist in MLB? Like, how
That's
do you
what
bring
I'm
that
saying.
topic
It's
up?
wild.
They
Yeah,
drafted a woman. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
To be the
Number
beer
one
guy.
overall.
Yeah.
No, just as a statement.
The uniform is like.
Dude, did you ever see there was a football league and it was like the lingerie football league?
yes.
It's the most ridiculous.
Very bizarre.
That's
Yeah,
fucked
it was
up.
very
That's
feminist.
Like,
Crazy.
in
And-
theory,
Yeah,
like,
that
they
is
thought it was
feminist,
gonna be
right,
hot, but
right.
then in reality, it was just
Yeah.
like
Like
bizarre.
it was
Yeah.
just
In
like
reality, it's just
beating
like
the shit out
fucking
of each other.
jacked lesbians who are just killing each other on the
like there was like women that were like defensive ends in
I love
bras.
when,
Just like
I love when guys are like,
tackling
I love when women fight, and then you watch two women in
No, it's
UFC
not fun
beat
at
the
all.
fuck out of you, and you're like, oh my god,
It's
that is
horrific.
not hot.
Babe,
Yeah.
stop, babe.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Chill.
but that used to be hot, right? Like two women fighting was a thing
That was the
guys were
thing.
into.
The
Movies,
cat
yeah.
fight
Why
thing
was
was the big
that?
thing. They're
Why
like,
was that
"Wow."
hot?
Because it was, I will tell you, it's like
about the
maybe a boob might fly out.
Oh.
That's the whole thing. It's like maybe a boob will fly out.
Yeah,
if-
like with the mud wrestling and
Yeah.
stuff and
Yeah.
Jello.
the
Wow.
whole thing you're
What is
hoping
going on?
for is maybe a boob will
People
fly
were
out. There's
so
nothing else
desperate
hot
for
about
a
it.
boob. Now no one
Oh
could
yeah.
give a fuck.
What
if
are you talking about?
No. We still. That's still.
We still stay in a boob.
Yeah.
No.
We must stand.
Yeah.
There is no way you would get two women into an argument just to see a boob.
Oh, you highly
Anymore.
underestimate the other gender.
Now you just watch something online. It's like not.
No, it's still
It's
if it's
not-
organic, it's way more interesting.
If it's still flying,
Yeah.
you're still like, okay.
You want to see a flying boob?
Yeah.
God.
That's an
What a-
interesting point. Like, if you see, like, you could see the most like hardcore porn ever, and it's like, but like if a girl like drops something and like picks it up, you're like, what the fuck is going on over here? It's like something.
Wow.
that
It's like you
fucking-
gotta see,
I
like
do
you know,
not
a
support
map
the
that's like
views of this podcast. Yeah.
That might just be me. I think it's a little
If a
more.
girl picks something up.
But like, you know what I mean? In general,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
No,
if
in
you
the
do
wild,
something
yeah.
in the
Yeah,
wild,
It's
in
also
the wild,
like-
yeah.
The porn thing, it's like too. I don't really like the porn thing is like I don't really like porn. Like I think it's too.
Oh my
it's all
god.
the same
All
thing.
right, talk.
Ew.
I'm not trying to be like a white. I legitimately, it's not like out of like.
He's like, I'd
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
too
fuck.
fake. It's too fake.
Yeah,
It's just like it's too the scripted like the way that every one of them is kind of the same thing.
Right.
Where it's like there's an in the natural thing that is more. It's more like hot, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it would definitely be way better if you just caught two people having sex at Central Park. Then watching
somebody-
porn.
we got two people making out in the car,
In the car
last
last
night,
night.
and it
Oh,
was they were
shit.
like one person was like about to get into the other seat.
See?
Oh,
That's
that is hot.
hot.
Okay, that's hot.
So if
Yeah.
you can like,
stayed
if
and
you can,
masturbated.
Yeah, I
if
was-
you can find a house or something like to hang out outside of, dude, that's way out
Well,
of.
in New York, you like look at each other's houses.
Oh yeah, one time in Atlanta, I saw a couple having sex like second floor,
Yeah.
and it was one of those buildings that was like all glass,
Yeah.
and they were fucking against the glass
Oh
in
shit,
a very
dude.
public
But
street.
in my
Yeah.
opinion,
It was so
they,
hot.
they're-
They
I think
love it.
they've
They
signed
want-
off
they
on being
love
like
that.
people
Yeah,
can watch.
exactly.
It is hot. Have you ever done
Yeah.
that? Like
I've-
fucking a window or whatever.
I've never
Like
had
a hotel, like
we've
this all
hooked
glass.
up,
It's
never
fun.
had
Yeah, because
sex.
then you're like, wow,
You're like,
I'm
wow.
so free.
Yeah.
These people are seeing
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
bust
But I
in
think
2
you-
seconds.
better catch it. This is
Yeah.
gonna last
You're
long.
like, way more than you, I like the people.
I like
I'm
to
here
put on
for
a show.
audience
Yeah.
approval.
This is a Vine-worthy performance right now.
Fine worthy.
There's something about that is like hot, but I don't know. Is it hot for women too? Is that like cool to have other people see you have sex?
Hey, I'm sure it depends, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure
you're having
it's not
sex
something I can conclusively
Like if you're in an
solve right
alley,
now
it's
for
not
us.
cool. But if you're in a,
give us the
Yeah.
verdict, you said all women.
What a strange
I
question.
think as a guy, you're like, this is cool. Like, yeah, other people are seeing me.
How
hit
did
this.
we get into this? Because I thought
Yeah, I
there was
also
a
am curious.
question.
Down,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it
You
hot
printed
when-
it out.
Now this is a major gear switch. When you guys fuck, no, I'm just kidding. So this is a major gear switch, but I am curious about this. So I would say like most of the comedians that I hang out with, and like at my level, I'm still predominantly doing open mics. So
I gotta get out of here.
no, so-
I thought you were like a successful guy. Fuck.
No, so I would say like most of our like fantasies are, or most of our goals are still like in kind of that ephemeral fantasy realm. But at you guys' level, you're doing it. You're headlining. It's happening. So what does it feel like to go from hopefully one day to like, oh shit, I'm doing the thing? Is that like a mental transition, or does it just happen? You don't even realize it. What did the like emotional side of it feel like to like, oh shit, I'm doing it?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a tough. Do you want to say like how do you?
Well, I only started headlining in January. That was like my first.
I had that.
It's
under,
very recent.
Is there?
And
Would you mind
all
grab me one
I
of those
was worried
cans?
about is like
Thanks, brother.
just okay, to be perfectly honest, I've gotten all these opportunities that I don't think I'm ready for in
I'll take
some
a
ways,
Miller, actually.
you know.
Thanks,
so you're just trying to kind of fill time.
Yeah.
You're like, I have never done 45 before. And in January, I was like, oh, I have to do 45 for the first time in a show that people came to see where I end. No one else is going to take the bullet after me. Like, it's me, and I have to land this. And so you're like not there to enjoy it as much as you're there to be scared. Like, I was just there
That
and
will
afraid.
shift though. Like,
Yeah. Like,
I think that just shifted for me in maybe a year and a half ago.
yeah. I feel like I have probably so much more before I'm like, this is my show. I still feel like this is our show.
Yeah,
We are all, you
but
know?
there, like, it will change because I think you're probably like me where I was like, do I have the time?
Right,
The
yeah,
whole time I was
yeah.
just thinking about the time.
I know.
And then I had never done an hour before. I was only if I got to 45, I was like, oh, I did it. I got to 45.
yeah.
But I wasn't being like present on stage
Yeah.
because I was like so worried about like, okay, I did that bit. Now I got to
where
do
do we
this
go
one.
now?
Now I got
Or
to do this
sometimes
one.
in the middle, you'll be like, oh no, I missed a bit in the last section.
Yeah, and that's
Do
gonna
I
lose
bring
me
it back?
time. Yeah,
because
Yeah.
that's like 2 minutes off. Do I
Because you're
bring it
just
back?
thinking
You know?
about can I do the time,
Yeah.
whereas the audience is not thinking about
Audience
the time.
does not, yeah.
They're thinking about what you're doing in the moment.
Right.
So it's like when I switched gears, like I did an hour right. I did a Comedy Cellar hour. I was like I asked the host or the manager because I was doing Fallon.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, can I do one of the like they let you do an hour if you want sometimes, and they're like, yeah, for sure, because I wanted something to promote. And then when I did it, I was like, oh fuck, like they're giving me an hour if
Yeah.
I want it.
Yeah.
I could book the show with 5 comics if I want, or I could do an hour. And I was like, I'm just gonna see what I can do.
Yeah.
And rather than be stressed about it, I kind of just like I had some new shit written, and I was like, I'll dip into that, I'll do this, I'll do that. And then it became like I did an hour effortlessly, and I
Yeah.
was like, it was like when you know the thing about the 5 minute mile guy, like there was a minute where nobody could break a 5, maybe it was 4 or 5 minute mile.
I think
though.
it was 4, and
It
then
was
once
4.
somebody,
And then once somebody did
then
it,
everyone
once somebody
did
did
it.
it, then a bunch of
Yeah.
people did it,
Yeah.
and it kind of felt like that. Where it's like the first time I did it, I had never done more than like
Yeah.
48 or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And once I did an hour, I was like, oh, now I'm doing it effortlessly.
Yeah.
Every set I'm getting to an hour with no
Yeah.
problem, and it's going well.
Yeah.
Because part of it was like I wasn't thinking about the material. I knew that I had enough stuff to go back to if I
Yeah.
needed to.
Right.
like,
And
even when they book me for 10, I do an hour. It's no problem.
but no, the what you're talking about though, I do think you're asking what it feels like to go from open mics to headline. The problem is, at least for me,
Yeah.
it's so gradual.
Yeah.
Gradual. I was gonna say granular.
Yeah.
I like that combo word.
Yeah, yeah.
Gradular.
It's so gradual, and the progress, like every piece feels so granular that like by the time you're doing it, you're like, I should have. Like it doesn't feel like a big jump. It's just like who
Yeah.
you always have been. and it's hard to like see it in a scope of like, oh yeah, this is crazy. Now I get to headline. Like you're just like, oh well, now I have to figure out a new bit or a new hour or whatever. It's everything is under a microscope, so it's never. Nothing is ever satisfying.
Right? Yeah. Nothing.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah,
Like,
you're like
is there
never
ever
present
a moment
enough.
where you reflect and you're like, damn, like look where I started. Like,
Well,
this is
yeah,
crazy.
of course. Like I
Every
mean,
once
I
in a
was
while.
hanging
Every
out
once
with
in a
a
while.
friend the other day, and the last time like they'd seen me was in Nashville, when like I lived in Nashville, and he was like, the last time I saw you, which was like 2 years ago, you did a show in a strip club in Nashville where people threw dollars at you, and you had to sweep it at the end, and put it in a bag, and then now you're doing this, so it's like there's rare moments where you're like, yeah, I have come away, but then they're also day to day you're just like, I'm trying to have a good show.
You said that and I was like, what's the hookup for that show? You still go back.
Yeah.
We just did a show where we had to fucking cook brunch.
Right. Yeah, you do
it's
it.
It's all bullshit.
I mean, the other night I was like, there is 3 drunk people and 2 sober people at the show, and I will do it. Like no one's gonna stop me from doing the show. Yeah,
it's all that. I think like that's the nice thing about living in like New York or LA, where it's like you get humbled constantly, like, or there's always another thing to get to. It never ends, and you always think. I remember starting and seeing features who would come through town in my home club and be like, man, they must be so happy.
Right.
And then like you become a feature and you're like, this is not a way to make a living. Like this fucking sucks. And then you're like, man, these headliners, they must be so fucking happy. They're like, and then you start headlining and you feel like exactly what you were saying, where you're like, this isn't a real thing though. Like this isn't a real show.
Yeah.
Like this is our show. And it is kind of true sometimes. You're like, nobody came here. Some people do, but like you're like, people came here because there was comedy. They weren't like, I'm here to see this.
Right.
So I always hate when I'm at a club that feels like that, where the host or the over the mic person goes like, Tom Thakkar is here tonight, and he's in the back.
Yeah.
Give it up for him. He can hear you, people.
Give it up.
Like, they don't know who the fuck I am. They don't give a shit that I'm in the back.
The worst is they don't remember your name well.
Of course not.
The host doesn't remember the name.
Yeah.
And then I remember like 3-4 weeks ago, whatever, this host came backstage, asked me 5 times what my name was. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll just tell you how to say it. Then he got on stage and he goes, whatever, Casey. And he took a breath and I was like, this man doesn't remember my name. And there is nothing that makes you feel like now the audience knows I'm not important.
Course. Yeah. That's why I always tell them, I'm like, you can fuck up my name.
Yeah.
Say it confidently.
Just say it.
If you just say it confidently, I don't care. If you could say the wrong name.
That's why I hate when people are like, how do you say it right? How do you say it right? I'm like, no one cares.
I don't care. Like, you could say the fully wrong name. I don't care.
You cannot pause.
They called Brandon. They called him Brent Kilo, and his name is Brandon Killa.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
It was great.
Yeah, and I get fucking up.
Right.
Like, when you host, there's
last night
pressure
I
on you.
someone's last name that I was bringing up, and but I was just like, Ella,
I noticed that.
Yeah, but then you're like, the audience doesn't know. Only comics know.
Yeah.
So you just have to be like, this is
and
it.
they're gonna forget the second you get on stage anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like I've done hours where then people are like, wait, what was your name?
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, I've said it, but whatever. I get it. Like, why would you know? Like, if you don't know, you don't know.
Punctuate every joke with your name.
Dash
Tom Thakkar.
Tom Thakkar.
The Joe List sign behind you from this year's material. With
Tom Thakkar said that.
You just have a recording like a fucking DJ Drew. Like DJ Mustard on that beat.
I wish I could do that.
With dreads. Yo, Tom Thakkar said that shit.
Why do you have to be black? No.
Yeah, why did he have to be black?
Why can't it be a white guy with dreads?
Yeah.
All right.
It just wouldn't feel as cool.
Why do you have to be so big?
And why did it seem threatening in my head?
Equality,
That's like my own
for
problem.
all.
Here's what sells it. It's like I'm a little afraid of this guy.
Equality for all.
In my fantasy, he's black. I don't know about you guys. I'll take that view just as black. I'll own that one.
In your fantasy.
Look, in every
afterwards
fantasy I
we
have.
fought.
In your fantasy, it's just like,
Like in your
a
wet dreams.
gigantic, it's just like a
You guys
giant.
think this was a comedy club thing? No, this was just a sexual thing. No, it
Jack
sounds
and the
like, because
Beanstalk.
I know we're about to wrap up, but it sounds like each level you progress to, there's a new element of imposter syndrome you have to deal with for some amount of time. Is that what it feels like? Or am I misinterpreting
Yes,
that a little bit?
yeah. I think that is it. Like when I started featuring, I was like, I shouldn't be featuring. This is fake. Like,
Yeah.
and then you slowly get comfortable with that. Headlining was way harder though. Like it took me, and I still, because there's different levels to, because headlining is not like, oh, now I'm a headliner, that's the final level. It's like
Yeah.
you headline and you're like, wow, I'm getting to do comedy clubs, and then you're like, oh, it would be nice if the crowd was people who already knew who the fuck I was.
Yeah.
Then it can become like doing theaters or something like that instead of doing one night in a town, and you just sell a fuckload of tickets.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could do like arenas and have a podcast that's whatever? It's like
Yeah.
there's so many levels to it that it never goes away.
Yeah.
Like now I'm now at a level where it's like I know that I can go on stage and do an hour and be good, and like I don't have to worry and I don't have to think about it. But then you're like, well, I should be making reels or like whatever. I should be getting more people to this club than are here. Yeah.
So
I
now
should be
you're
doing
almost-
yeah.
Well, I was
whatever.
going to say, you're almost at a point now, it sounds like, where the focus can not shift, but also accommodate, instead of just the material, trying to build the audience. So you might be in a great spot to, in the near future, build your audience very big, because now you said you feel like you can go on, do an hour, and be really good.
Well, that's where it's tricky. Like, I don't know if you feel like this, but it's like you can jump. This happens all the time now. People jump from open mics to headliner. Like, you don't even have to do all this shit
Social
anymore.
media
If
kind
you
of
can
stuff.
just get a social media audience, you don't even have to do all this shit.
Yeah.
So now I'm behind those people, which is fine. I'm not like a hater of people who create an audience online or whatever. If you're good at it and you're funny on stage, do what you gotta do. And I'm more like, oh fuck, I should be doing that.
Yeah. I mean, people
What
go
if I just
watch
started
Tim
crying?
Robbins. Wait, Tim Robbins? Tony Robbins.
Yeah,
Tony
yeah.
Robbins?
Oh,
The
yeah.
motivational
The sales-
speaker.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that, where you're like, all right, I mean, if you have an audience, it doesn't have to be a killer hour. They want to see this guy.
They don't care.
Yeah.
That
They
happens
don't
with
care.
like, there's a bunch of sports personalities that do
Yeah.
that shit. Like this dude Russillo, who's always on Bill Simmons' podcast. Now he goes and kind of does comedy, and it's like it's not funny or anything.
Yeah.
It's like,
But people will come.
but people
Yeah.
go and they're like, we got to see Russillo. Like they don't care if
they
it's
don't
funny or
care.
not.
Like,
But you have to want to be good yourself. You know what I mean? Because you, like...
Internal motivation.
Yeah. But like also not even internal motivation as much as being like, well, do I want to be a comic or do I just want to sell tickets? You know, like I don't want to just sell tickets, which is why I think like for a really long time I was like, I'm not going to post things online because I don't think I'm good enough. And I don't want that material out there.
Yeah.
But you have to know when you're like, okay, this joke is fully formed and it can just go out and I can just whatever.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to just build an audience. You don't want someone to come to a show and think that was a bad hour.
Yeah.
Like the amount of people
Yeah.
I've like seen YouTube celebrities who will bomb for an hour and you're like, oh, you just lost 300 followers.
Yeah.
That's how.
You know?
That's exactly. But I wonder if they do. I used
don't
to
think
think
they do,
that.
yeah.
I used to think like, oh, they lose those followers. I think
No.
those people go and they're just like, yeah, we saw this person.
and
I
now
don't
we're
think they
closer
even
with
care.
them than ever.
They're like,
yeah.
I don't
good at
think they
YouTube,
care.
Yeah.
Not that great at stand up.
Yeah.
Like, might not go to the next show.
That is different. That I
Yeah.
do find issue with. I don't like that. And I understand it, but I don't like when they get comedy club spots.
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
if it's a one night or if it's like a Wednesday or whatever.
Yeah.
But those weeks used to be for people who can hold an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
And I really respected that. And now it's like you look at a comedy club's website and you're like, oh, this is a person who's never done stand up
Yeah.
who is now doing a weekend
This
at
is
this
a man
club.
on the street.
Yeah.
And he is literally just a guy from the street. There is no
Yeah.
He's asking people in the
distinguishing-
audience,
That
so
is
how
a
many bodies do you
bummer.
have?
Yeah.
Pointing at every girl in this. Like,
So one thing you guys both made a point I wanted to piggyback on is you were saying that like you have no issue if somebody goes from like open mics to headline if they built an audience. Then you were talking about like, you know, like you don't want to just build an audience, you want to do like material. So I think that kind of what ties it together is building the skill of stand-up and building an audience is two totally separate things now in the current landscape.
Yeah.
And so maybe for this temporary time you might be behind somebody who like jumped on the social media.
Sure.
But if you were to focus on that, blow it up in the next year, and you get all these spots, you have the skill.
Yeah, now that's like what
So
and that happens. Like I've seen that happen to a bunch of guys recently. Like my buddy Chad Daniels is somebody that like he was a guy who was kind of toughing it out in clubs. He already was like he had done the credits and stuff, but he blew up from Pandora and Spotify and shit. People like just coming across his stuff on YouTube and stuff. And now he's huge and he's doing like the Burt Kreischer tour and he goes up and blows everyone out of the fucking water because he's been doing comedy for 25 years. If you the time like I do downplay like the time you put in, but it is important. Like it makes you better if you're doing it consistently for 20 years or something like that. I've been doing it for like 13 or something like that. If you're doing it consistently and you care and you also challenge yourself, like move to cities where it's tough, like I think it is valuable. It's just that that doesn't equate to selling tickets all the time.
Yeah.
But if you start doing that, like if I suddenly came up with a character that's like Indian guy goes wild at the bodega or whatever.
Toxic Arab guy.
Then people would come to my show and be like, "Oh, he's also actually funny."
Now you could do it. Like it's people always say like right place, right time, but you have to be at the right place at the right time, and you better be ready. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to get like okay. People want JFL. You don't want to get JFL if you're not going to be good. You don't want that. Like you don't want everyone to see.
I feel like I wish I had gotten it like a year after I got it because I learned so much in the between year that I was like, fuck, if I had gotten it now, I'd be.
But do you think you learned that because of all the things you got from JFL?
I didn't get anything from JFL. I got
That's the other secret no one tells you. You get nothing.
It's not like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it can be valuable. We were just talking about that on the way here. But no, it's more like if you want to be really fucking ready when you get like when I did Bridgetown, the Portland festival, that was like my JFL where I got Conan out of it. I felt like I was ready. I started like I got a Comedy Central special because I was like I was ready. I was like I'm gonna ask people to come watch me.
So did you like DM industry professionals or email or whatever?
I had met some Comedy Central people because I was doing a radio show and I had always heard of people doing this, but they told me, they were like, hey, anytime you're doing a set, let us know. And I was somebody who would never do that.
I know.
I was somebody who would never fucking do that. We were,
how I've been,
Exactly. And I was telling you, like, those people do want you to take them up on it. That's their job. Is to watch
They're
comedians.
Waiting to find talent.
So I was like, I am ready to do this now, and I was like, I knew I was doing half hours at this club in New York, and I knew I was killing. I was gonna kill it, and so I hit them up, and I was like, hey, I'm doing this. Come out, and they did, and then I fucking got a half hour.
Nice.
Like, and part of it was just
and
being
that was
like
the Comedy Central half hour.
Yeah. That was like I know that I should be doing this because I put the work in. But also part of that is like I would never have done that because I was like they said that they don't really want to come see me. I'm not worthy of this. And part of it is you see other people do shit and you're like I think I can do this. I can go reach that bar.
Always trying to convince yourself to take a risk on yourself. You're like because in your head you're like I'm not good. But you actually obviously are good. Why would you keep doing well if you're not good? You know, but you have to convince yourself that they like
it's
you.
The fraud
you
theory,
know?
though.
I was gonna say, it's almost easier to encourage your peers than it is to like see yourself in that same honest light.
I heard a great thing once that like I forget it all the time, but when I think of it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. It's like because in your head, like I just from talking to you this weekend, we have the same thing, and like a lot of comedians do, where it's like You think we do have AIDS.
Yeah.
No, where it's like you think you fooled everyone,
Right.
And it's like you're not that good.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
not that good at fooling
Right,
everyone.
yeah.
You think everybody else is a fucking idiot.
Yeah,
Like,
and also if you were that good at fooling everyone,
Yeah.
more people would be fooled.
Exactly. Yeah,
Why
yeah,
are more
yeah.
people
Either
not
way,
fooled?
yeah.
Yeah. Then it
Yeah.
has to be. Yeah.
Yeah, you just are what you are.
Yeah.
So it's like if it feels like you're getting stuff,
Right.
you should be getting that stuff.
Yeah. It's like people say like talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. And you always look at a friend and you're always
Yeah.
like, man, you got this. Like, do it. You know, but you never say that to yourself.
No.
Like,
but
Well,
sometimes
also,
when you
also when you say it to your friend, you're like this. You don't fucking know.
And maybe that's it. It's like, you know deep down, it's like, I know I'm lying to my friend.
Yeah.
So when other people encourage you, you're like, you're full of shit.
I just want him to be an idiot, not me.
Oh, that's good. Well, I gotta get over to this show.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
got a headline
Shower.
here in a little bit. So
Oh, yeah, I need to.
I
Nice
really,
5:30.
really appreciate you guys making
Yeah,
this time.
yeah, this
is a
good
Yes.
time.
I really appreciate
Cheers.
it. It's very
Yeah.
valuable.
Yeah,
Cheers,
insightful.
guys. Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
So thank you for doing this. Hamza, thank you for coming back.
Always.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
But no, it means a lot to me as someone who's trying to, learn how to get to where you guys are, seeing how you guys do it, watching you guys both kill this weekend, and making some time for somebody who, I know this isn't like going to help you guys' career. So just making the time.
If
to
anything,
do it.
hurt it. Yeah.
Well, that's not what you said over text. So
Yeah, you said this would finally get me to 50,000 Instagram followers.
No, I sincerely want to say I appreciate it. Thank
No,
you very
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
until next time, everybody.
Okay.